Welcome, Nebojša Slijepčević. Your short film, The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, won the Palme d'Or in Cannes for the best short film and tells the story of a passenger train that was stopped on its way from Belgrade to Bar in 1993 and the 19 people killed on that day. Now, as a Croatian living through that war-riddled time in your region, what compelled you to tell the story of the Srpci massacre?
Well, of course, all of us who are old enough, but unfortunately, even the people who are born after the war are somehow, scarred for life. And there's the sad truth about the wars, that it's not over when it's over, but it's for next generations. You still have to heal the wounds and repair all the international relationships that were broken during the wars. So, but actually, what I saw in this story are two things. First, it sounds as a horrible story, but inside that horrible story is one very inspiring character, a man called Tomo Buzov, who was brave enough to oppose the unarmed just by talking, but he opposed the soldiers that were taking the civilians of the train. And he lost his life, but his heroism, I think, is worth remembering because it was really like a heroic act. But also, what I saw in this story is something universal, something that is not connected to war in Bosnia, but to our common experience of all of us. When I was making this film, I was not thinking how to tell the history lesson, but I was thinking about telling an universal story that I can identify with, and I think anyone can identify with, no matter where you're from or how old you are.
And you tell the story through the eyes of Dragan, someone who does end up remaining silent in your story as a
Yeah.
really easy surrogate for an audience to see themselves in it. Was that why you chose to tell the story through his eyes?
In a film, it's always a question of perspectives, similar as in literature, through whose eyes you're looking the situation. And I think that none of us deserve to look the situation through the eyes of the hero. I think large majority of us, me first, are people who get scared in situations when there is some violence happening, and we stay silent at the moment when maybe we should not stay silent. And of course, it's hard for one man to change anything, but if many people would rise together, in situations like that, maybe the outcome would be different.
You base those other characters in that same train compartment on the over 1,000 pages of legal documents on that trial that happened after where the murderers were put on to trial. So do you think this, I guess you answered this already, it represents the maybe a more general notion of the population through the war so they could see themselves in the different characters in the compartment, or how those characters that end up being there that are based on real people, come to be placed and interact with each other?
I did the huge research for this film. I was at least documentary filmmaker, at the first place. Now I do both documentaries and fiction, but I approached the film with this documentary discipline, because it is based on a true story that happened not so long ago, only 30 years ago. So many of people who were on the train and even relatives of the victims will see the film. I felt the need and I felt the obligation to research it as thoroughly as I can. So, but doing all that, this is fiction film. So I invented characters based on these testimonies. So all the people except Tomo Buzov who are in film are based on some real experiences, but their names and specifics like age and how they look and everything is made up, completely made up. But yes, I wanted to make a compartment which I had three basic characters. I started with three characters, and that's Tomo Buzov, that's a young man who is Muslim and who is threatened to be taken from the train by Serbian paramilitary troops. And the third man, who is our main character, someone who is observing the whole situations and trying to decide what should he do. And then other three places I filled with one old man, one student girl, and one young girl. So to have some diversity in a compartment. And Yes, I wouldn't say that it covers the whole population, but I think it was important to see different people in the situation, how they react, from the child to the old man.
Something about telling a story about something truly atrocious, like a massacre happening. Often in narrative forms, we do need that hero character to kind of have at least a shred of hope remaining in that. Someone like Tomo Busov. Why do you think that is?
Well, of course, it would be very, very, very dark place the world would be without any heroes. So,
Yeah.
fortunately, there are some in real life.
Yeah.
But I think that we cannot rely on solitary heroes. If we want something to be different, all of us should participate somehow. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that this film has a message. I'm not trying to send a message through the film. It's just my personal opinion. I leave to the audience to think what they want, through the film. Yeah.
The introduction to Tomo and the way that it's moves from one character to the next, it's like the pivotal moment of the film.
Yeah.
Really shines through in the really careful camera work in the confined space of the train car. I assume that was a big part of preparing for this shoot, because that must have been really tough. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Well, to shoot in a train, and we had to shoot in a real train because maybe in some Hollywood production they would build a train in a studio that can. But yeah, we shot it on a real train on a real station, and this is really confined space. You cannot. And I didn't want this film to be static. I wanted for camera to move as freely as possible. And we had really to make. I rehearsed this first shot, I think, for months, maybe even for years, because I knew that the first shot will be very important, both emotionally, because I wanted to start building suspense from the very first shot, but also it's very important to make the audience feel like they are in a real train, so they must feel the space. The camera in this first shot is making almost the full circle. We start from one side of the train, and then we pan to the right, for more than 180 degrees. It was tough, but it was fun as well to plan it and I had fantastic director of photography, Gregor Božić, a Slovenian, who was really helping me and improving all my ideas with his ideas.
And as a filmmaker who is largely focused on documentary filmmaking for the most part of your career, so what was that process like to plan for a narrative short? Maybe like apart from the technical side of the camera, to the whole rest of it.
First, I was educated in a film school where they didn't make a division between documentaries and fiction. So I worked on some fictions before as a director and as assistant director, so I knew it pretty much all. Also, I had in documentaries, I was very often doing my own camera work and editing myself. So technique is not foreign to me. I know enough about cameras and lenses, so I could I created very, very precise storyboard, with all the camera movements pre-planned, with top views of the train, and it was so precise that in the end, we in the film you see all the shots that we shot, so we didn't have any leftover shots, it was really precise planning, and film luckily worked as we planned it, so we didn't need to throw anything out or to have any additional shootings out.
And then maybe you've seen Quo Vadis Ida from 2020 as well. That's about the Srebrenica massacre. Probably the on the death toll, the biggest and is really complicated wars with like a ton of these atrocities happening. Why do you think it's important to keep telling these stories? Obviously, you said you can still feel the trauma being handed down by generations as well. So
there are many reasons. First, unfortunately, I think that in the ex-Yugoslavia, audience still needs these stories, because they're people still remember the war, so they were. I was teenager during the war, and I'm not the oldest person in Croatia. You know what I mean? It's like people. It was defining moment for many people, and still they have strong emotions about this war, you know. So they need some kind of emotional release, you know, and that happens by telling the stories. But also what we see some manipulations, you know, on all sides on all countries that are now here where Yugoslavia used to be. In Serbia, in Bosnia, and in Croatia, you know, war is used as and memory of war is used as a political tool to get some easy votes, you know. And then very often, you know, politicians are really not helping in overcoming hatred between nations that started in the 90s. You know, they just make it worse, you know, but picking the world. And we see what's happening in the world, you know. Right now we are in a very dangerous position in a world where it seems that the big war, you know, could start soon, you know, like the World War III. And I think it's worth again showing how the war is horrible thing, you know, because it's not something we should forget ever. And I think we should try to avoid wars, you know, by any means.
The smaller conflicts that lead into a bigger one, where everyone is showing their alliances. It's like what you can see in the lead up to the First and the Second World War as well. So
exactly, and
really a concerning time at the moment.
Yeah, when you read the papers, you know, every day it seems it's slipping into worst and worst direction, you know, in the worst direction. So I think, yeah, it's not right at the moment.
And what about, maybe this is a complete 180, but what about your cast? I think you got an amazing cast here. I've especially been really fond of Alexis Manenti. I've seen most of the stuff that he's been in. He's always a true standout, and it was a surprise to me. I didn't know that he was in this film, and it's always nice to see him pop up. But also Goran Bogdan, who mostly tells really his character's emotions through his eyes perfectly. That guilt of silence in a way. So yeah, how was it working with them?
Goran was my first and only choice, you know, and I really wanted to work with him, and I thought that he was perfect for the role, and I was very happy when he agreed to do it. And he really, not only him, but all the actors, I had a really fantastic cast, you know. And when you read the script is very similar to the film, but louder and more violent, you know. And on a page, when I wrote it with more shouting, with more pushing, when I had such wonderful actors, you know, we could throw all that out because they brought on the set so much internal tension that they could speak very softly, you know, and you still feel this tension, you know. There is no need for so basically the last as it always happens, I guess, last version of a script was written on the rehearsals with the actors, you know. And the rehearsals were more of dialogue, talks, and about everything from daily politics to the motivation of the people in a train to do what they did. So it was wonderful to work with Goran and Alexis. I really love that guy. You know, he's a fantastic actor. He's a very nice person as well. But and I did not know actually that he speaks Croatian, Serbian, Bosnian language. You know, before my French co-producers told me that they could get Alexis for some role, and that he speaks, you know, and I was really delighted with this possibility. And he's the actor I could watch, you know, for him on a filming day. I would start the camera. I was sitting in the other compartment. I was watching on a small monitor, you know, what he was doing, and I would forget to yell stop, you know, because I would be so drawn by his performance that I would start watching the film, not directing the film, you know. He's fantastic actor who is. I'm very happy that I worked with him, and I hope I will have another chance in the future, you know. So, and also I was very lucky with the rest of the cast, especially young. Silvio Mumelaš, who plays Milan, a young guy who was threatened to be taken away by paramilitaries. I think he did fantastic job. Dragan Mićanović playing Toma Buzov, who had very hard task to be invisible for first part of the film, and then to take over the scene, which is not easy to do, especially for such a great actor, to be invisible is a lot to ask, but he was very generous. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with the cast.
Well, speaking of being seen in a way, definitely found an audience in Cannes, and then the award success led to more opportunities at other festivals down the line. So how has that reception been internationally now that you've been showing the film all over the world, and what do you hope they take away from it? Yeah, after they've seen it.
I think the reception was fantastic, because the film travels all over the world, to all continents. We had like, I can't count anymore. I think more than 60 international festivals in these 3 or 4 months, and like 20 or 30 more Croatian festivals, So it was really crazy. I couldn't follow it. Actually, what I hope with this film and with every film is that it brings a new experience for the audience, that they feel like they lived through something. It's not about sending the messages. It's about like that's what good films do for me. That when I watched the film, I felt that like I lived another life during watching this film. Like I had some huge experience that wouldn't fit usually in 2 hours of my life, or in 15 minutes in this case. So, and also if they have something to think about the next day after watching the film, that's my goal, just to leave some mark on the audience.
Yeah, to me, that ending as we go into the darkness of a tunnel did feel similar to what early days of Black Mirror tried to do, to hold up that Black Mirror in front of you of the phone, but paired with war and how we deal with it as it was in the past, but also current. So it feels like even though maybe you're not specifically lived through, have that connection from being from the region, there's something for everyone to take away and feel connected to it. So it feels really universal and effective in what you're doing. So congratulations on that. I think you really knocked it out of the park with the film. Is there any way where you can tell us already where people who haven't seen the film yet can see it in the future?
Yeah, for viewers in Europe, and I think Switzerland as well, it works in Switzerland as well. They can check TV Arte web channel, and it's available right now, I think, with French and German subtitles on a TV Arte online platform.
Yeah.
And that's it for now, what I know. We'll see in the future.
And I'm sure an actual Oscar nomination is in the books as well, so maybe even more spotlight on them. Regardless of that, if that happens or not, the film speaks for itself, and you should definitely go see it. So thank you so much for your time and for the interview.
Thank you for having me.